Hello, everyone, and welcome to North Shore Magazine Online. I'm your host, Kim Kerrigan, here in the beautiful seaside community of Swampscott. Now, did you know that Swampscott has a rock and roll side? For 38 years, the former lead guitarist of the band Boston, Barry Goudreau, has called this home. Recently, I sat down with Barry here at G Bar and Kitchen, and Barry told me that Swampscott is more than a feeling. Barry, it is great to see you, and thank you so much for being with us and with North Shore Magazine.
I'm very happy to be here.
So what's a rock and roller like you doing in a little town like this?
Well, I grew up in Lynn, and after the initial success of the band, we were out on our first big tour, and I called home to my parents and said, when I get home from tour, I think I'm going to be able to buy a house. Would you go and look at houses for me? So they found 4 or 5 homes, and I think the first one was in Gloucester, and there's another one up in Manchester. And the last house we looked at was here in Swampscott, the house that I live in now, and it was literally the next street over from where I was living. I was living at Fran Sheehan's house, the bass player of Boston, the house he had lived in since he was a child. And I had never even noticed the house was there before. And we walked into the place, and it was a contemporary with high ceilings and a view, and none of the things I had when I was a kid. I said, "Oh my God, this is it!" And I bought it on
This
the
is
spot.
heaven. That's what you
So
said.
that was 38 years ago.
Really? Yeah. And you've been here in Swampscott ever since?
Ever since, same house.
What is it about Swampscott, though, that keeps you here?
Well, it's got kind of a small town feel, I think. All the amenities, I love the water, and we're close to the water, and the school system was great. It worked really well for my kids. They've turned out really great, thank God, and it's been a great place to live. I've never thought about moving, to be honest.
What's it like to be a rock star living in a small town, though? Is it like what I think it might be, which would be pretty wild?
I think former rock star probably describes it a little better, but well, when I first bought the house I'm in now, at the time, the high school was literally right next door. And I would come out of my house, and there'd be 20 kids at the end of my driveway. I'm like, "Oh, there he is, there he is," But now nobody cares.
Are you recognized when you go out?
Well, sometimes at the grocery store, which I see
one another,
Kim
yes.
at the grocery store from time to time. But I've been here for so long that people, I'm like part of the landscape at this point. So.
Sure, absolutely. Tell me about life after being out on the road. How's it been? What's been going on?
Well, I still do some road work, not at the level or intensity that I did it before. We were just talking about Ernie and the Automatics, a band that I had with Sib Hashem, the original drummer of Boston, and Ernie Bach, of course. And we did a tour a couple of years ago, opening up for Deep Purple, went all across the country with that. But it's rare that I do that kind of stuff. Mostly it's go out for a weekend and do a couple of shows and fly back.
I think once you've got music in your person, it's with you forever, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. I still love playing, and I can still do it to a pretty good level, and people seem to enjoy hearing me play. So as long as they want to hear me play, I'll be out there doing it.
Absolutely. We were talking about this, and this young generation now who has suddenly found Boston again, and some of the bands that were your contemporaries at that point. What do you think about music now, Barry? I mean, it's really different, isn't it, than when you guys were out?
It's to the point now where the technology is to the point where virtually anybody can make a record with a couple of $1,000s worth of equipment in your bedroom. You can sit down and make a record, and the quality of it, at least the sound quality of it, is going to be as good as anything out there. So I think it's kind of watered things down to a certain degree. A lot of the stuff that's out there seems pretty predictable and canned to me. And I think that's why people turn to the music back in the 70s, the 80s, that I think it has some real guts to it,
It does. You're absolutely right. I know you talk to kids a lot. I've seen clips of you like talking to kids over at Berkeley and that kind of thing. Is there still a generation of kids out there, you think, though, who can appreciate that kind of music versus all the techno?
Oh, absolutely. When my son went off to college, he phoned home and said, "Everybody's listening to Boston." Like, oh my God,
You are cool, Dad.
Yeah, you're pretty cool. and I think they all tuned into a lot of the acts at that era, and you know, it was great music. There was a lot of time and care put into it, and I think that's, you know, stood the test of time, so to speak.
I absolutely agree with you 100%. That was music that I was listening to as I was growing up, for sure. What's your favorite place in Swampscott?
I would have to say right out here on the beach. I live up on the hillside, and I look right down on this scene out here, and I get up in the morning and I look out, and that's what I see, and I love it.
My experience is that the ocean is beautiful every day, no matter what the weather, no matter what the situation is.
Well, maybe when there's a hurricane and you're worried about the windows blowing in, but other than that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, pretty fascinating every day. Listen, it's so great to see you, and thank you so much for taking some time with us.
Well, happy to be here, and I'll see you at the grocery store.
It's a deal.